Hi, everybody. How are you? This is Tiffany, and today we're going to be talking about metabolic math. We're going to figure out our macros for achieving fat loss. Okay, but if you are new to this page, the Fatigue Fix, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. My name is Tiffany, and I am a board certified and licensed nutritionist. But before that, I came to this place because of struggles with my health that were unrelenting and just really struggled to feel better until I took nutrition into my own hands and started on this journey of helping myself to feel better and then getting other people to feel better as well. So, with my history, I just started way back in high school and college feeling this debilitating fatigue, the depression. I would go to the doctor and I would ask for various lab results, not even knowing what I was asking for, but just looking for something because there's no way that this was normal for a 20-year-old to feel this tired, this depressed, this down about, trying to function every day. And everything came back normal all the time. Every time I had lab results, everything was normal. And they just told me to stress less, don't worry so much, you're just getting older. All of that just kept unfolding in front of me, and it led to so much frustration. Depression got worse, fatigue got worse, everything just snowballed for the worse. And it just seemed daunting and debilitating. It seemed like there was nothing I was ever going to be able to do to feel better or to even feel normal. I didn't even know what it was like what I could actually feel like. So that led me eventually to have getting a diagnosis of thyroid cancer. And I stupidly thought, and maybe I was just trying to be positive in a situation that's just kind of scary. I was so excited to have an answer to everything that was causing me problems because all of my symptoms for the last 20 years made sense with a diagnosis of thyroid cancer, even though they told me that it didn't. I was thinking that, well, this can be the answer to all my prayers. This will make sense. I'll go through the treatment. I'll go through the surgery. I'll do whatever I need to do, take my medicines, and then I will feel better because now we have an answer. We now know what was at the root of causing these symptoms. Well, things just got worse. So I went through the surgery, I went through treatment, I started going to my doctor appointments for follow-ups, getting my medications all in check, and my symptoms actually got worse and worse and worse. Okay, so that's a whole other thing too. I won't go into all the details about medication for thyroid and lab work for thyroid at this stage of the game. We did that a couple weeks ago. But what I found out is that I was not eating properly. That was the one stone I hadn't turned over, was my nutrition, because I thought, relatively speaking, I'm eating okay. I've been interested in fitness and nutrition my entire life. Am I perfect? No. But I eat pretty well. I eat probably better than, the majority people out there in the standard American diet. But there must be something I can do to help myself feel better with my nutrition. And I talked with my doctor about it after 3 years of feeling like garbage after being treated for the cancer and things. And my doctor told me that food doesn't affect how I felt. He said, that's not what's doing it. The food doesn't affect how you feel. And so, with that, because I know with my background in education, biochemistry is all fueled by various nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and all that kind of thing that fuels the processes in your body. And I knew that. He has to know more of that. He's got way more biochemistry than I ever had. But he told me food doesn't affect how I felt. So that's when I knew that that's what I was going to dig into. Okay, that's what I knew that I was going to dig into and make changes in my life to start feeling better. And I did just that. Okay, and that's why I'm here today helping others doing the same thing with whatever their symptoms are. Okay, if you're here, you're feeling fatigued, you're frustrated, you are not able to handle your stress, you have poor gut health, your thyroid health is probably not in check either. and you're struggling to lose fat. Okay, we want to lose weight. A lot of people say they want to lose weight, but what we really want to lose is we want to lose the fat. We want to recomp our body. So before we get into that, I want to ask you, are you here live or are you on replay? Either one is fabulous. I'm glad to have you here. So just let me know in the comments if you're watching live or if you're on the replay. And also, if you have questions as this is going on, whether you're watching live or replay, make sure you put them in the comments. I would love to answer your questions any way that I can. If you don't want to ask publicly in the comments, you can certainly message me privately and let me know what your questions are. I can get you information that way as well. All right, so let's go on to who is this for? So this is for the person who is struggling to recomp their body. What we want to do is lose the fat, improve our muscle. And with that, even if the number on the scale doesn't change to the number we think it should be, you're going to help yourself feel and function so much better. You're going to be much stronger. You're going to be healthier for the long haul. That is who this is for. If you're looking for a quick fix, if you're looking for getting to the magic number on the scale, no matter what, this is not for you. That is not for you if you're looking for the quick fixes. If you're looking for actual information on how to make your body feel and function better, eating properly to get to your good body composition, this is for you. If you want to weigh 120 pounds, no matter what you do, whatever you have to do to get there, this is not going to help you. Okay. All right. So we need to talk about why do people keep struggling? And when it comes to fat loss, weight loss, body composition, this is where people get into trouble. This is where it just drives people nuts because we get to this point in our lives, whether it be from a thyroid dysfunction that's not addressed, maybe it's hormonal imbalances, which start way earlier than people want to think, or it's because the types of foods we're eating. This is a problem where we keep struggling, but we don't know why. We keep struggling because we're not being listened to. We're not being listened to, and we're just given pat answers on what to do. The common thread with what we're talking about today is just eat less calories, move more, you'll get to the weight you're supposed to be at. Okay, that's all you're supposed to do. That keeps people stuck because they're not being listened to. They're not being heard that they have chronic fatigue, that they have horrible hormonal symptoms every single month. They are not being their symptoms of chronic fatigue or chronic migraines or joint pain or whatever, that is not being addressed. So we can't just exercise more. We can't just, do the things we need to do because we feel like absolute garbage because we're so flippin' tired. We're not being listened to when it comes to those symptoms. And when those things aren't addressed, getting down to your magical fat loss goals is almost insurmountable. And then we also overcomplicate things. This will maybe seem a little complicated today, but it's really not. And we have to know that there is no specific thing that's exact science for trying to figure out what we're supposed to do with our macronutrients or our calories and all that kind of stuff. There's no exact science. There's a lot of formulas that are developed in the laboratory, but we are not in a laboratory. We have hormones. We have, which, by the way, female hormones aren't really taken into account for a lot of those formulations. We don't have like perfect conditions that are the same all the time in our life. We have outside stressors that impact us. We have chronic illnesses we might be dealing with. So that is why this can be overcomplicated. We have things in our life that are just overcomplicated in the first place. Not to mention, we throw all these food rules out. We get all this information on commercials and newspaper articles and well-meaning friends and people who have had things work for them, that may be selling some products or whatever. We get too much information, but it's not usually tied to what we actually need. If we don't know, we don't know. And then that's where the lack of support comes in. We have, again, well-meaning people in our lives that are probably like, here, I use this product, you should try this, or I did this type of exercise, you should try this. And it maybe isn't a great fit for you. Maybe it worked for them, but maybe it doesn't work for you. And this is where we need to have the right support to help us make sense of everything for our specific situation. And that is how I ended up by creating my fatigue fix programs, because that is what I did to help heal myself. That's when I listened to that doctor tell me that food doesn't affect how you felt. So that's where I was like, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to dig into this in a different way. I'm going to look at how foods can affect each of the symptoms that were frustrating me. The first one was the fatigue. That was the absolute worst symptom. And then that leads into everything else. And when I started to dial in the nutrition and the anti-inflammation and the different ways of eating to help fuel my body, it was within 2 weeks where things changed. 2 weeks, things started to change for me. Were they all better? No, not at all. But they started to change drastically. And when I had that little win, that little quick win of improvement, that's where I could just go. I could just send myself into improvements and improvements, improvements after improvements, just snowballed. And that's what I do in these fatigue fix programs for people. We give baby steps so that you can start to see little accomplishments and get those quick wins along the way. But if you don't have someone in your corner that actually has been there, who actually understands connecting the dots between symptoms and nutrients, then that makes it a lot harder to get those results. So I got my friends and family members to be guinea pigs to go along this ride with me, and sort of practiced on them with my programs, and just it's evolved from there. And then here we are 10, 11 years later, something like that. And people are all still going through these programs when they work with me one-on-one. And it just looks a little bit different for everybody, again, because of those biochemical differences that we have. The frustrations that everybody has are a little bit different. So it's got to be customized. So that's how all of that was born. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty of understanding your macronutrients for losing fat. Now, remember, macronutrients are the macro nutrients of our bodies. So those are the three groups. I call them the three food groups, is the protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Those are the things that drive everything in our body. Your body composition, your body mechanics, your physiology, those will help drive all of those things to keep us healthy and functioning how we should. Then we have micronutrients, and those are the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, antioxidants. Those are in the foods that we eat. It's in the protein we eat, in the carbohydrates we eat, in the fats we eat. And we all know that whole foods are going to be a lot more beneficial to your body to help improving symptoms than ultra processed foods, right? So we need to start eating more whole foods right out of the gate. So if you are just start with this. If you're a person who relies on packaged, frozen, quick fix, fast food, if you're that person, right there and then is where you can start swapping out some of those meals for whole foods. Just start somewhere. You're going to start feeling so much better just by doing that without even looking into this metabolic math. Okay, so start with that. If you're already doing a pretty good job of eating more whole foods, then let's dial this in so that you can start to lose the fat in a healthy way while building muscles, because that is where it's going to be for all your total health, but for sure your body composition. All right, so we're going to talk about protein first. Okay, so I want you to think about protein first when you're meal planning. I want you to think about protein first when it comes to your immune system health, with hormone production, with skeletal muscle production, with your bone health. Protein, protein, protein. We need proteins to do pretty much anything to keep our body running properly. Like I said, they're involved. Your antibodies that you make to fight infection are made from proteins. Your bones are made from proteins. Proteins are made up of amino acids. And so if you are not getting good quality protein or enough protein, you are not going to be building the skeletal muscle in your body, which is more metabolically active, which keeps you standing upright, which keeps you strong, which keeps your bones healthy, which creates your hair, your nails, your skin. Everybody wants to really focus on that. You need the protein. And I would say about 30% of the people that I work with are getting the right amount of protein, or at least aware of how much they should be getting. Now, most people are getting far, far less than that because honestly, I think I just started back in the more of the like fitness culture where women were sort of not, they're kind of worried about getting too bulky and don't want to lift too heavy, don't want to eat too much protein, you don't want to get big, that kind of thought process, whatever that looks like for you. You probably have heard that. You need to throw that away, put that aside, and actually eat the protein and then lift the weights. So there's two things here. I'm not a trainer, but I will tell you that you need to eat 100 grams minimum of protein per day to maintain the skeletal muscle you have. But to actually increase your skeletal muscle so that you have a higher metabolism, meaning you're burning through energy and calories, energy from the foods that you eat, you are burning more calories just to stay alive with more muscle. And from a vanity standpoint, you're just going to look better in your clothes, but you're sure as heck going to feel stronger. You're going to be better able to fight off infection. You're going to be just physically stronger, just doing household tasks or, anything, just anything. You're just going to be better at it because you're going to have a better musculature. All right. And like I said, not to mention, it's going to help you be more metabolically active. That is going to help you recomp your body. So as far as when I said I'm not a trainer, this is where you need to prioritize resistance training. Okay, resistance training. Does that look like lifting dumbbells? Does it look like machine weights? Does it look like body weight resistance exercises, bands, whatever it is, TRX, love those things. Those are hard, even though you're using, just your body weight. Those are really good exercises and should take priority over long distance running or cardio machines, like going on elliptical and hovering over the elliptical for an hour at a time. That's not doing you a lot with regard to your musculature and your body composition. It's causing extra stress on your body. If you're already stressed, those hardcore cardio endurance type exercises are probably backfiring on you. I could tell you that firsthand experience as someone who struggles with thyroid issues. And that makes it harder for me to deal with any kind of stressor. So if that sounds like you might want to prioritize resistance training at least two, maybe 3 days a week to start, and then build from there. Okay. It doesn't have to be, heavy barbell Olympic weightlifting types of things. Like I said, it can be body weight resistance. It can be push-ups. It can be squats. It can be lunges. That is going to take the protein that you're eating and your dietary protein and help build the skeletal muscle that you have. But you need a little bit more protein in order to really make a difference in your body composition. So proteins, as it says here on the little label, that it's got 4 calories per gram. They have 4 calories per gram. So they don't, add up that much to your total caloric intake, which I'm not really a calories in, calories out type of nutritionist because of all the factors I said in the beginning. There's so many different dynamics that we need to work at. And if you're not balanced in those, that formulation the math doesn't math. So you need to start supporting your body with the proper nutrients with more whole foods than not, starting with protein. Protein first, resistance training first is your priority. And like I said, 100 grams minimum is what you need to get. A lot of people I'm talking with, they're getting 50, 60, maybe 70 grams a day. Now, if you're, I mean, I have talked to some really tiny women who are 4'9". They maybe don't need as much, right? You probably need about the same, about the 100 would probably be your max. Your kind of your 80 to 100 would probably be good enough for them. But if you're a normal, even shorter than average height female, you need to get that 100 grams minimum, but then build from there. If your ideal, your target body weight is say 130 pounds, then you should eat 130 grams of protein. Okay. Again, these are somewhat general statements, but this is also showing in the research that you're able to, the more you can eat with the protein with regard to your target weight, getting closer to that target weight, the better your body composition is going to be, the better your blood sugar control is going to be. So you're not wanting to eat some of the other things that kind of take away from our health. You're just going to be doing all over better by eating the better protein. Okay. So protein at 4 calories per gram, that means if you're eating 100 grams of protein, you're getting 400 calories from your protein each day. Okay. And we'll get into some of that other stuff in a minute. As far as like your actual calories and that kind of thing, how to put that together. So the next thing we need to take into account is the carbohydrates. And in this day and age of low cal, keto, carnivore, all that kind of stuff, people are really eating pretty low carbohydrates. And I understand because it can be therapeutic. Keto diets have been used therapeutically for certain individuals. It used to be the only treatment for diabetes, actually, back in the day. But it's also used for things like epilepsy. There's all kinds of good research, good data on ketogenic diets for certain people for a certain time. It can be therapeutic to get you to start digging into those fat stores. However, if you struggle with a sluggish thyroid, if you have other hormonal imbalances, if you have a ton of stress on your plate, sometimes long-term keto, and again, I've seen this personally, long-term keto or super low carb will backfire. And that is why it's nice to use it as a tool, but to come out of it here and there. Okay. So what I have seen lately, when people start to refuel their body with a little bit more carbohydrates than what they've been used to and just sort of moderate it and actually, fluctuate the carbohydrates, that's when people start to feel a little bit better. They have a little bit more energy to power their workouts and that kind of thing. So we can talk about some of the ins and outs on that too. And if that sounds like you, if you've been low carb or keto or whatever, comment below. And if you've been doing it for a long time, comment that as well. Let me know. And then honestly, I feel like people are just flat out scared to eat carbohydrates. It's almost like they've created another eating disorder or a different kind of eating disorder. They're eating, but they're afraid to eat, carbohydrates at all. So we need to understand that yes, carbohydrates, because of ultra processed foods, have gotten out of control. Like Americans are eating way, way, way too much carbohydrates especially the junky kind that really causes issues with your blood sugar, and not taking in the ones that are actually beneficial and supportive of our health. And so now we are completely messed it all up. We got to refuel our body properly. So with that being said, carbohydrates also have 4 calories per gram. 4 calories per gram. So they're on the same level energy-wise as protein. Protein, however, as it gets on your body as muscle, is going to be more, it's like your metabolic machinery, right? And the more you have of it, the better your clothes fit. So in that vanity thing, you're going to look and feel better in your clothes. I mean, I guess that's kind of subjective, but you get what I'm trying to say with that. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, they will fuel it turns into glucose in the cells and it fuels your body's energy. It helps you to make ATP, but it's not metabolically active per se. And excess carbohydrates get stored as fat on our body. It'll be turned into triglycerides. So that is, again, why I'm saying you need to get into more whole foods versus eating the ultra processed foods because of that reason right there. And then it's not good for our arteries and all that kind of stuff. So we need to really make sure we're eating good quality carbohydrates. And at 4 calories per gram, it's not like they're, racking up your calories to make you, if you're eating whole food versions, you're not going to really overeat. It's going to be hard to overeat if you're picking the right things, the right stuff. So the general recommendation, and this is where you have to make it make sense for you. You might need to tweak. You might need to change it up here and there, which is probably better for your body anyway, to just kind of keep it guessing. I don't know if there's actual data and research on what keeping your body guessing does to your metabolism, but what I do see is that when people have been so low calorie, low carb for so long, they actually are down regulating their metabolism. And eating that protein is going to be beneficial to popping that metabolism back up and increasing that metabolism long term. So if you are someone who you would say struggles metabolically, do you have metabolic markers that you've ever been told about at the doctor? If you are significantly overweight, you probably have some metabolism issues. If you are on pre-diabetes medication, or I should say diabetes medication, or been told you're pre-diabetic, you probably have some metabolic dysfunction, metabolic syndrome symptoms. If you carry weight more in your upper body, and when you put on weight, if it's all in the middle, even aside from, say, hormonal type of weight gain, belly fat, that kind of thing, you probably have some kind of metabolic dysfunction. So here's what I would say to those people. You probably should have a max of 90 grams of carbohydrates per day. And that would be ideal if you can put those in containers of 3 meals a day, or 3 meals and maybe a snack, where you have, say, no more than 30 grams of carbohydrates at each meal. That is the idea there. All right. If you're doing 3 meals and a snack, then obviously the snack is going to be a little bit less, or maybe it's going to be a snack that doesn't include much really for carbohydrates. All right. So if you feel like you are a little bit more metabolically stable, where you have good blood sugars, your insulin's good, A1C is good, if you've ever had those tested, and you don't struggle a ton with being overweight, but you really want to just recomp your body, then I would say you can match your carbohydrates and your protein 1 for 1. So if your ideal protein intake is 130 grams, then you probably can tolerate 130 grams of carbohydrates. But it's okay to fluctuate, down or up to that max with your carbohydrates. So protein first, make your 100 grams your non-negotiable, and then work up to your ideal goal, and then add in those carbs to your meals according to that ratio, 1-to-1 or under that, if you are not metabolically stable. And if anybody has questions on this as this is going on, please comment below. So like I said, if you've been low carb or keto, let me know. If that's been a long time coming and you're almost a little bit afraid of adding carbohydrates, let me know. And then just out of curiosity, those who are watching this live or replay, I would like you to comment how many grams of protein you're averaging per day. I'd just be interesting to see what people are actually getting in. No shame if you're not getting that 100 grams in. You just know that you might have room to grow and to improve. But then what is your next goal based on your target weight? Okay, the next thing is fat. Fat has 9 calories per gram. It's a major macronutrient, as you know. Fat's been demonized, and people have been afraid to eat fat too, to be honest. So we understand that fat has more than double the amount of energy per gram. It's got 9 calories per gram. So this adds up quickly, right? When we're looking at just total calories. But fats are so important for absorbing the nutrients from your foods. It helps with satiety. It helps with brain health. It helps with good cholesterol production. It's anti-inflammatory if you're eating the right fats. Okay, you want to eat really good quality fats like grass-fed butter, olive oil, avocados, avocado oil, things like that. The list can go on and on. There's several good things, fatty fish and that kind of thing, if you're a fish person. But people have been afraid to eat that as well. Or if you're eating ultra processed foods, you are eating the worst fats ever that are causing inflammation. It's causing damage to your cells. It's causing your body to basically hold on to the weight because of all of those things I just mentioned. And so you really have to change the fats that you're eating. Now, because they have double the calories per gram, that's the one thing that could be moderated. And this is what you decide to eat based on what's left over from your calories that you're taking in and how they're made up of from protein and carbohydrates. The remainder is going to be the fat. And then as you kind of work through this and see what works for your body as you're losing fat, you can adjust the macronutrients accordingly. But I always say keep your protein the same or increase. And I would say fluctuate carbohydrates and then maybe reduce fat. That's kind of where you need to go, because you don't live in a vacuum. Nothing is going to always be the same when it comes to what your body needs, the stress that you might be under. If you're fighting a cold, you might need a different amount. So don't get so myopic and think that this is how much I'm supposed to have every single day for the rest of my life, because that's not true and not sustainable either. So allow yourself to be able to fluctuate a little bit within reason. All right. I can't tell you what that is. I could give you suggestions if I was working with you one-on-one and we were going through this kind of stuff, looking at your numbers, looking at your labs, then I could maybe make a recommendation. But for these purposes here, I'm just telling you, you need to allow some fluctuation to see what your body is doing. All right. There's no hard and fast rule with a lot of this stuff. It's just a guideline to go on. All right. So again, we're going to start with that protein at each meal. Ideally, you're doing 3 meals a day and maybe a snack if you need that extra little something at the end of the day before, like say 3 p.m. That's common. We want you to be able to put those meals in containers rather than eating 6, 8, 10 times a day. That messes with your blood sugar. And that might be, if you're doing that, that might be why you are wanting to lose weight in the first place. Okay. So make sure you're eating that 100 grams or more per day, depending on what your target weight is. And then try to put those in those containers, 30 to 50 grams at each meal, say. Okay. Protein and resistance training is there to be protective against fat accumulation. So that is going to be paramount. Build on that first, even without knowing what your calories should be for fat loss. Start with the protein and just go with that. Just start with that one thing and see what happens to your body with that. Okay, then you're going to add those carbohydrates. And because carbohydrates have that 4 calories per gram, if you are fairly metabolically stable, you can kind of do that 1-to-1 ratio, but you want to have them primarily in the form of veggie carbs. All the plants that you can add to your diet, that's going to be so beneficial for your gut health. It's going to be so beneficial for your overall health by doing that. And you need to stop thinking of carbohydrates as part of like what you have to eat. That's so normal for us. It's cereals and crackers and popcorns and, snacks and things like that. You need to start thinking of your carbohydrates as vegetables, right? Vegetables, fruit, maybe lower sugar fruit, depending on your blood sugar issues that you may have. And then maybe depending on your goals, you might need to moderate starchy carbs like potatoes, or even some people are really sensitive to even carrots, things like that, root vegetables. So maybe limit starchy carbs to like 30 grams per meal, or grains, whole grains like quinoa, or if you're able to eat gluten, the whole wheat products or whatever. Those are things that you should moderate and make a smaller portion, but build on the carbohydrates of the different types of vegetables. So if you think about it, we didn't have this overweight problem in society until processed food came into vogue, right? nobody really struggled with obesity. I don't remember, like starting in the 50s maybe is when they started really processing foods and making things like Little Debbie's and the packaged snacks and that kind of thing. Nobody was probably heavy because they ate vegetables and even potatoes. Nobody was probably overweight due to that. So get back to basics of carbohydrates. That's where the whole food process is really important to really work towards getting used to not having processed packaged snacks. That is what has gotten people into trouble, because those processed snacks have really horrible quality foods in them or products in them, especially the trans fats that are damaging to your body and then cause more of this resistance to fat loss. Okay. So it's a whole thing. You need to start eating whole food carbohydrates more often. No, and then people always like, oh, I don't eat bananas because they're too much sugar. I don't eat apples because there's too much sugar in them. And I just think about it. Nobody ever got overweight from eating too many apples, right? Or bananas. I mean, maybe there's something in research somewhere where someone had really poor, maybe they had diabetes or whatever. I don't know. But think about that. It's the chips and the crackers and the bite-sized candy bars, and it's that stuff that has gotten our society in trouble. Okay. So moderate that. Then this is where you're going to play with adding the fat. So choose real whole food version, just like everything else: butter, coconut oil, avocado oil, avocados, things like that. They fuel the muscle and they give you brain energy. If you feel like you have brain fog and you're just not thinking clearly, recall's difficult sometimes, look at the fats that you're eating. Are you eating healthy fats or junky fats, ultra processed fats, or real fat like butter? Okay. Think of those things. But it's been demonized because it is correlated to cholesterol. And if you dig into the research there, which is something we should talk about in here at some point, that dietary fat is not necessarily correlated with specific cholesterol levels. We need cholesterol for our brain health and to tamp down inflammation and that kind of thing. But we have gone overboard on that because of the crappy foods that we eat and that what is accessible to our society. Okay, so how you're going to customize this metabolic math is you can do it one of two ways. You can track your food for, say, 2 weeks, every little morsel you put into your body, and look what happens to your weight. Do you stay the same? And by the way, I would recommend getting a body composition scale. Even if they're not the most super duper accurate, it's going to show your pattern and what's happening with your body. Track your food for at least 2 weeks. Longer would be better. And what happened to your body? Okay, so did your weight stay the same? Did you lose weight? Did you gain weight? That will kind of determine what your calorie range is for maintaining your current weight and composition. So generally speaking, women will fall into between 1,600 and 2,400 calories, that's where they maintain the weight. But if you want to get really specific for yourself on this, I'll type this in here. You're going to get fat loss going. You're going to multiply you're going to multiply ideal body weight times 12 and 13. Okay, so for fat loss, you're going to multiply your ideal body weight times 12 and times 13. If you want to maintain, but then be able to maintain more healthily, you're going to take your current weight by 15 and 16. So if you like where you're at now, but would like to just, maybe adjust your composition a little bit, you're going to need your current weight times 15 and 16 to get your calorie range. These are for calories. Okay, fat loss, multiply your ideal lean body weight times 12 and 13. That's how many calories you need for fat loss. To maintain, it's going to be multiplied your current weight by 15 and 16. And then to gain, so if you have someone in your life or you need to gain weight, you're going to take your current weight and multiply by 18 and 19. Okay, so if you want to gain weight, you're going to multiply by your current weight by 18 and 19 to get calories to gain weight. Okay, so I'm going to use a very, very simple example for fat loss and then figuring out your macronutrients. Okay, so again, fat loss is going to be 12 and 13. So, and I'm just going to use 12 right now just for simplicity and time. So let's say you want to weigh, you think your ultimate ideal lean body weight is 150 pounds. And by the way, I'm not using a chart to come up with an ideal lean body weight for people. What I always tell people is, what weight do you think, or have you been at before that you felt great and you didn't have to bust your butt at the gym or starve yourself to stay there? That is your ideal lean body weight. It can adjust, you can change along the way. So let's say it's 150 pounds. So that person would need to consume, I'm going to multiply times 12, 1,800 calories a day for fat loss. I bet that's a lot more than you would think you should be eating. I am seeing over and over again people eating 1,000 calories a day, and then they wonder why they can't lose weight and why they have poor energy and have brain fog. Okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. All right, so add 1,500 calories, 1,800 calories a day to get fat loss. We need to look at how those calories are going to be composed of protein, carbs, and fat. Okay, I just spelled protein wrong, but for time's sake, I'll just keep that on there. Did I spell it wrong? It looks funny. Maybe it's not. Okay, so at 1,800 calories, we need to see, okay, how many calories are going to be protein, how many calories are going to be carbs, and, oh, I know, I spelled fat wrong. How many are going to be fat? Okay, so if we said before that protein has 4 calories per gram, and it's recommended if you want to be 150 pounds that you eat 150 grams of protein, that's going to be 150 times 4. So this looks like 600 calories of protein. So 150 grams times 4. Okay, 150 grams of protein times 4 calories per gram is 600 calories. All right, so let's keep a running total. So 1,800 minus 600 for protein. We've got 1,200 calories left to play with. And let's say, again, for simple math, that this person is pretty metabolically stable. And they're going to then need 150 grams of carbohydrates. I'm going to abbreviate it CHO. And that is also 4 calories per gram. So you're going to see that that is going to be the same for protein. There's going to be 600 calories of protein and 600 calories of carbohydrates because we're doing 150 grams of each protein and carbs. Okay, so now we have 1,800 calories total that we can pull from. Minus 600 from protein is 1,200. Minus 600 from 1,200 is 600, right? So this is working out nicely. So now we need to figure out the math for fat. 600 calories is left over. We just need to divide that by 9. So 600 calories divided by 9 calories per gram of fat equals 66.67 grams. So to figure out fat, you take the remainder of the calories, in this case is 600, divide it by 9, and that gives you 67 roughly grams of fat. So if you multiply 67 times 9, you're going to get 600 calories. All right, so 67 grams of fat. So each of these macronutrients, the grams, ideally you would spread those out as equally as possible. And honestly, even if you don't feel like you're metabolically stable and you ate the 1-to-1 ratio of protein to carbohydrates, if you start doing that and eating real foods primarily, you're going to feel so much better and you'll probably start to lose fat right there. But then you could have that starting point and then dip down of your carbohydrates. Maybe you increase fat a little bit for a few days or a couple of weeks. Maybe the next time you adjust and you try to eat a little bit more protein because you decide you're going to lift heavier weights. And then you adjust your other macros accordingly. So that's how you need to do this. But the idea would be to roughly stay in that calorie range of 1,800 calories to roughly, I think it would be like 1,950 calories for this person who wanted to weigh 150 pounds. But the real testament's going to be how your body adapts to stress, the lifestyle mitigations that you might be doing with stress management, nutrient intake with quality whole foods, the types of exercise you're doing, other things happening outside of your life, that are impacting your day-to-day stress. That is what you need to do to start to really dial in your body composition. You're not going to do, if you just take a standard scale and say, I weigh 180 pounds, want to get to 150 pounds and just let the chips fall where they may and see what happens. Like, you're probably going to be disappointed because you might be doing all these things and then step on the scale and maybe you've lost 2 pounds according to the standard scale. But if you had the body comp scale, you'll see that you increased 5 pounds of muscle and lost, say 3 pounds of fat. So it might look like you've even gained weight when actually you've bettered your metabolic effect because you've increased your skeletal muscle and you probably look better in your clothes. You can probably see it. You can see it in the mirror. Other people can maybe see it. Your clothes fit better. But because the scale says you either didn't lose very much weight for your efforts or you maybe even gained a couple pounds, you're going to be mad. I hear it all the time. I've been there. I get it. So with that being said, what are your next steps? What are your next steps? Oh, I want to point out too, alcohol has 7 calories per gram. Okay, just take that. Not to mention, it becomes primary source of fuel to get it out of your system because it is a poison. So if you are doing all the things right, but you're still having that glass of wine every night, or maybe you go out on the weekends and have a couple of days of drinking alcohol and you're not getting the results you want, that's a really good place to start right there with removing that or decreasing that. So what are your next steps? Do you want support in this? Like, do you want someone to look at what are the other things that are impacting your body composition and overall health? If you cannot see the forest through the trees because you haven't been listened to for however long, you're struggling with things you don't even know what they really are, but you just know you have these symptoms, then the next step for you would be to reach out to me. Okay, I've been through all of this. I deal with all this on a regular basis, personally and professionally. And so if you want support and want to find out how you can get the best support possible to use these goals that are specific to you and help you through step by step, I want you to comment app below. Comment app below, and I will send you a link to my app. There's a little 5-minute video. The app takes about a minute to fill out. No big deal. And if it makes sense, maybe we can work together. If it makes sense for both of us. I would love to help support you. I know I can help you. I help a lot of people dealing with stuff like this. But it's not always about the calories in, calories out. It's about changing the types of foods you're eating. And it's about supporting your body in a holistic, whole health way in order to get the results you need and want. All right. So thank you for showing up today. Comment below any questions you might have. Comment app if you want to get some extra support. And I would love to help you out. All right. Have an awesome day. Take care. Bye-bye.